Hello, hi, my name's Damien from Solid Tech in New Zealand. This is going to be a short demonstration of how to build a jet boat using multi-body sheet metal. As you can see, I've already pre-drawn some sketches. I have one sketch here that shows the side profile and the transition between the hull and the side. And I have a profile at the bottom that shows the plan view. Okay, and these can be used to drive the entire structure once complete. Okay, these were used to create a series of other 2D sketches. As you can see, these intersect between the 2 points on the sketches, and a 3D sketch was drawn in the same fashion as this to link up the corners, which I'm going to do now, and the same through the side here. So, very simple to create this type of geometry. The next thing we're going to use, draw the sides of the boat. As you can see, because I've mirrored these, we don't necessarily need to use those, but so we're going to draw with one half and mirror the features across, take advantage of that symmetry. And we're going to use a feature called Lofted Bends. What this lets us do is create a sheet metal part that can flatten complex curvature. As you can see, we get the side of the hull here, and we can right-click on there and flatten it at any point. And we can see a full flat pattern and save that as a DXF for profile cutting. We're going to use the same command again to get the hull done. Again, we're going to put that on the outside. And then we're going to use a standard sheet metal command, base flange 6mm for the transom at the back. As you can see, what we're doing, we're building up multiple bodies inside of the cut list, each with its own flat pattern, and we can flatten any of those at any time. Okay. Now we have that, what we're going to do next is draw the rim around the back. Before we go too far, I'm just going to create another 3D sketch. And this time we're going to connect that to the inside line here and to each of these points as we go around. And this one here, what we're going to do is actually select the mid-plane and say that it's symmetric about that right plane. And one more thing, we're just going to dimension that to the front cover plane that we put in there, so we know how far back from the nose cover it's going to be. Okay, I'm just going to hide that sketch we did underlie, and we're going to select this chain, and we're going to use another tool which is called a structural member. This allows me to choose from a number of different standards, like circular hollow section, equal angle, any different size, like 200 by 200. Obviously that's an excessive side angle. I can rotate this, align it anywhere I want. What I've done, I've pre-drawn a profile and saved this in my boat library called a boat rim. And you can see on here that illustrates the shape of the rim. And what we're going to do is going to click the locate button, and we can locate that on any point. Just pull this across, and I can locate it on any of these other points, rotate it, change it, choose how they join. Do they butt well? Do they miter? And what we end up with is a series of structural members all the way around. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is the belting at the front of the boat. And as you can see, what I've done, I've actually swept a surface that slowly rotates around through here. I did that so I could get this edge to include the later sketches from. But what we're going to do is use a command called face curves, and that lets me just put a couple of curves onto there. So again, I can use my Lofted Bend command to go between the two. Again, I'm going to make that on the outside, and this one's going to be 3mm, the same as the others. Okay, so that's all my main bodies done. What we're going to do next is mirror those. So we're going to take advantage of the symmetry of the boat. I'm going to come down, I'm going to use the right plane, and we're going to mirror. We could mirror all the bodies, but for best practice, it's best to do one one at a time. So I'm going to start with the hull. Then we're going to redo that command, and we're going to do the side. And again for the belting. Okay, so that's our boat starting to come together, and as you can see, all of these are able to flatten. We can look at them in their flattened state, go through and check them, and they will update and change as we change the geometry later. So let's come through. What we're going to do next is the top nose cover. And as you can see, what I've done, I've pre-drawn this curve, and this sketch here you'll see is another 3D sketch, and all I've done is included that edge from that swept surface I did, and done a few splits in there. This way I can control how this little kink comes down and where does it join at the nose, and that's controlled using these dimensions here. Okay. So again, our lofted bend command will allow to loft between those complex forms. Again, I'm going to put that on the outside. And that's done. So I'm just going to hide these sketches. Let's hide that one as well. And that one. So we're starting to get that form together quite quickly. What we're going to do next is the windshield. And instead of pre-drawing or drawing the sketches, what I've done, I've saved those out into a library to show us how we can pull those in straight from the library. See on here that I've got a windshield sketch. I've saved a series of 3 different sketches that allow me to define where this windshield goes. And what it's looking for is orientation of the point and my right plane, my center plane. And see what we get is a side profile showing the windshield where it's going to be from the side on, and top view of the windshield as well. And we're going to edit this sketch. And we can see on here that it's not yet been defined, and we can pull that around and drag it and change it until it matches what we're after. Pop that on that point, and this looks pretty good to me of how we're going to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we have a top view and a side view of how we want the windshield to look, is we're going to use a tool called a project curve, and we're going to project this sketch onto this sketch, and what we get is a 3D curve that shows where those intersect each other, so from my side and top views. And as you'll see in the feature that we imported, I can show the bottom, and we can hide the other 2 sketches that we don't want. So we're left with a curve and a 3D sketch showing where we want, again, our lofted bends. So all that's left to do is create a 3-dimensional sketch. So I'm going to include this particular line here. And as you can see, it's actually divided into 2 because of the way it was drawn. And if I do my lofted bends from here, we'll end up with a line that shows that intersection point there on my geometry, and I don't want that, so I'm going to use a little technique which is using something called a spline tool, a fit spline, and it will fit a perfectly smooth curve to those intersections. Then I am free to use my lofted bend command between that sketch and this sketch. Again, I'm going to put that on the outside, and we end up with a flattenable windshield. which is great. So let's hide those sketches and that curve at the top. Okay, so you can see it actually penetrates through that top cover now. But what we want to do is, I'm just going to change the scene on here so it just looks a little bit easier on the eyes. You can see that we don't want it penetrating through here, so we're going to use another technique called intersection curves. And I can say this surface and this surface, what I want is a curve where they intersect each other. And that can be used to slice the bottom of the windshield off. Okay, so we end up with a curve like this, and all I need to do is add on there a couple of lines just to make sure that it cuts all the way through. And we're going to use an extrude cut, and we're going to cut away only the windshield. Oops. Let me just select, come back in here and select that properly. Okay. So what we end up with then is it perfectly fit in just on the top. So already profile to profile cut. We can see that the flat pattern of that works brilliantly. And we can also work with these flat patterns in a state that's called toggle flat pattern display. So this allows me to see what does it look like while we're working with it. So I can see potentially this would be how I weld this particular belting on. I'll start from here and slowly tack it round until it reached where I wanted. Okay, I'm just going to add a couple of appearances to this, like a colour to the whole body, and then maybe just this windshield can be black, and we end up with our boat. And at this point we're going to save it. I'm going to call it Sprint Hull Demo. And we're going to do a couple of things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to update our cut list. And we're just going to make sure that all the descriptions that we want to come through to our model. So you'll see through here we got each of the cut lists, so we can see our side in here, which is going to be side body, or port side even. I'll do it all in caps, port side. I'm pretty sure this one is going to be the port hull. Transom, which is going to be 6mm. And I'd like to note on here we can also get this to link to the thickness of our structure. That way when we update the thickness it will come through at the same time, and we'll see each of these comes through just fine until we get down to our port belting. Starboard side. Oops. And our windshield. Okay, so there we have our properties set up. That way when we put a cut list or a bill of materials in our drawing, they will come through automatically. What I'm going to do on top of that is we're just going to create a couple of configurations to make creations of flat patterns in the drawing a little simpler and easier. We're just going to do a port side and port hull, and I think maybe we'll just do the windshield as well. and one more. We'll just do that top cover. Okay, since those two go together. And what we're going to do, we're going to take those and we're going to configure them to create some configurations. And in there we're going to basically say I want a port side, a port hull, a top cover, and a windshield. Okay, and in there all we need to do is say, well, these are going to be suppressed for these particular configurations. As you can see, what we've done, we've built a configuration that shows the flat pattern for each of those particular components. So there's our hull, you can see we've made flat, our port side, our top cover, and our windshield. Okay, so going back to the main configuration, we're going to build the drawing briefly, and then what we'll do is we'll just modify a few sizes and show how that's completely parametrically related to the those initial sketches. Okay, let me just put that windshield back on. Okay, so we're going to make a new drawing. It's very quick, very easy. We'll see all the views that are available to us over on the right. We can just choose to drag and drop them in. Choose how do we want them to look. Do we want them shaded or whatever. I'm going to put a right view down here, project a top view and a front view, and that's probably enough views for that particular model. We're going to add a few quick dimensions on there. Let me just zoom in. One on the side, so the width of the structure. I'm going to have one for the overall length. Oops. One for the overall length. Let me do that one again. Just put that on the bottom. And one for the overall height as well. And that's probably enough, and we're just going to change those dimensions so they 0 decimal places, makes it a little cleaner. Okay, we're going to add a cut list on here. Going to use just a standard cut list, weldment cut list. I'm going to use the default template. We can see that all the descriptions and lengths of those structural members all come out on my cut list. They're all labeled quantities and numbers, and we're going to add some balloons. We'll auto balloon this. Just move them around so they look a little cleaner. Maybe add them to the faces. That looks good. Just move the whole thing up. And the only thing left to do is add some flat patterns. So we're going to use standard model view, and we're going to choose to say what I want to do is add them, one for the port hull, and we can add this straight in flat pattern state. So we're just going to come down here and say flat pattern. And that's one hull on there, and if we don't like its position, we can easily rotate that, align it where we want. Maybe we want to do that for nesting. We're going to add on, maybe we'll just add on 2 others. So we're going to say I want another drawing view, which is going to be the top cover. And the last one we're going to do, which is going to be the windshield, and then we're done. And we'll make some changes and see how that updates. Okay. Let that rebuild, and we're done. Okay, so we have our flat patterns and our drawings for that particular boat. So coming back in here, what you'll be able to see is that we can use any of those driving sketches to make some amendments and changes. And potentially this would be the point where we started, starting with an existing design and making a new size of boat based on the same type of construction. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll go into those original sketches, like the side driving sketch. We can make that, give it a longer tip, maybe 1300. A longer tip. Maybe what we'll do is go to the top driving, we make the whole thing a little wider, maybe 1700. Just to make sure that that sketch was attached. I think I didn't attach it very well, so just go back in there. And what I forgot to do was give it a particular length to control that with. So what we're going to do is just add that dimension right on now. Okay, so we've made the nose longer, we've made it a little bit wider. What else can we do? We can also come in here and go, well, what I really wanted to do was make this bonnet come up 100 mil rather than just 50 mil. See how that comes up? It looks pretty ugly, so I'm going to bring that back down to 80. Maybe what we'll do is make that a little bit wider as well. So there's a lot of control over there. It doesn't look quite as good as I'd hoped either. So I'm going to undo that and just leave it like it was. But we can change any aspect of that, including, if we want to, we could actually go right into the sketch, not controlling the dimensions, but actually drag and change and say, well, what I was really interested in was making some transitional changes to the way this hull comes up. Maybe if we make a wacky one just to illustrate the point. Let me pull that up at this side. So that concludes the end of the demonstration. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact myself, Damien Murphy, on 0800 Solid Tech. That's 0800 765 438. Or alternatively, you can email me at damien.murphy@solidtech.co.nz, and that was Damien, D-A-M-I-E-N, damien.murphy@solidtech.co.nz.